There we are. I think we should be live right now. Fantastic. So I
Hello.
have no idea how many people are going to be joining us right now, but hopefully a few will. Otherwise, it might be a bit of a lonely conversation, but it'll be a great conversation nonetheless, as we all know. And I'm just going to get the comments going. So if we see any comments coming up, that would be fantastic. So feel free if you are with us. Oh, we literally have got 0 viewers right now, but that's okay. So anyway,
That's
let's
okay.
have a chat. Let's have a chat
Yeah,
now.
that's
So what have you been doing recently with AI? Because I've seen that you've been speaking at conferences, you've been doing your thing. What have you been doing?
likewise, Joe. You've been doing your thing too out there. So I had the pleasure this weekend. I chatted with, or I presented rather, at the NJCTA International Conference, which is the New Jersey Chinese Teachers Association. And they're just such a lovely group of educators, so hardworking. They had a 2-day conference, Friday and Saturday, at one of the state universities here in New Jersey. And we talked a lot about what AI is, what it isn't, and we spent some time looking at some useful tools like Mizu to set up interpersonal practice scenarios for the students to get them chatting and talking. And then we also looked at resources that can help create content like music or like songs. I demoed a song for them all about food in Chinese. And it was a catchy tune and they liked that. And we used Suno.ai to help us create that song. But I did share with them we can't use this tool with students that are younger than 18 years of age, right? Because it does not comply well with some of those privacy policies. But for teachers, if they're interested in using that tool to generate a song really about any topic in any language, that was really fun for us to do and to demo and to test out. And how about
That's
you?
amazing.
What have you been?
Well, can I just, if I just
Yeah.
ask a question, well, a couple of questions about that spring to mind. I'm more than happy to talk about all the stuff I've been doing as well. But did you get any feedback about the level of the Chinese that the AI was producing? Because when I've been doing training sessions, for example, with language departments in Australia, who regularly, will have Chinese teachers. In fact, the session I did yesterday, there was a Chinese teacher there as well in London. And they tend to say that the level of language that the AI produces is quite a bit higher than maybe what you've asked for. When you put in the different grade level, it can be quite a lot higher, and it maybe needs a bit more editing than other languages. Did you get any feedback on that topic at all?
Well, we talked about specifically the initial prompt. And when you're setting up that initial prompt, we talked about training the models to understand that you are an acquisition driven instruction teacher and that you're focusing on high frequency words and key vocabulary and really thinking of it from a novice beginning level standpoint. So hopefully, whichever LLM we're using produces content that's appropriate to our students' level, which is really at a very beginning level. And because Chinese, unlike Spanish, unlike our Latin based, right, Romance languages, doesn't really have any cognates. So they really need to focus in on, these are the 15 structures or phrases that my students know really well. And with that I+1 model, I'm going to add in maybe 2 more phrases or vocabulary words based on these 15 to 20 that we know really well to hopefully build fluency. So really being specific, I think, with the vocabulary that you're initially starting with and then building on from there with whichever prompt, but having that mindset going in, knowing that if you just tell it, create a reading about food, like create a song about food, right? It could go on and on and on and give
Yeah.
you all of these terms that are just unnecessary for a beginning language learner. So setting it up, I think, from the get-go with that, we have to scale it back. We have to keep it very simple and easy for our students, I think is important. Is that what what advice have you been giving people?
Well, so the advice or the feedback I've had from showing content generated in Chinese is that, because obviously I don't have any Chinese at all, but that the level is maybe the tone is more serious than it needs to be, more formal, and therefore there would be some editing required. So my understanding is that the number of tokens that LLMs use when generating content in Chinese and Arabic, and in those two languages in particular, it uses more tokens, so it's using more computational power to do the work compared
Which
to
is not environmentally friendly. I just want to
it's
throw
not.
that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true as well. Yeah. And yeah, compared to, let's say, French, German, Spanish, etc. And that could be to do with the data set, that maybe the data set is not as big in Arabic and in Chinese. I don't know, but I've been in a webinar whereby I was told that those two languages in particular use a lot more tokens to perform the activity compared to other languages, which I just think is very interesting.
It is.
Indeed. But as we know, you have to do editing. You have to edit everything or look at everything that the LLM will produce because of what we all know, accuracy, bias, etc. But that was the feedback I'd had. So I just wondered if you'd had any feedback from the Chinese teachers at the conference on those sorts of questions, or were they just very happy to see everything in
They were
Chinese?
they were so my session was only about 40 minutes. So I dove, I guess, as deeply as I could given the amount of time that we had together. And I didn't take necessarily questions from the group, but I was able to on the side talk to some folks one-on-one that were appreciative of what I had shared and are excited to see what it can do to help them with the school year in mind. So, but I
And
think from the teacher standpoint, I think teachers are starting to feel more comfortable than they were a year ago with navigating how it works and potentially why it might be helpful. And then the student side of this, which I know that we have our upcoming two-part workshop series all about AI for student skills. That's where I'm finding that teachers are trying to really streamline, okay, this is when we can use artificial intelligence, this is when we cannot use artificial intelligence, and approaching those conversations with students really with an open mindset. But it's difficult because as a department, what's the philosophical, what do we all believe, or how do we think AI could benefit our students and not replace the interpersonal communication that we have, the relationships that we build in our classrooms? Like that that can't go anywhere, right? That's what makes us who we are as
yeah,
humans. But this can serve as a practice tool. How can it serve as a practice tool, and how can our students use it responsibly if we're going in that direction? So I'm finding that those are the conversations that I'm having more now with teachers,
mm,
as opposed to a year ago it was, how does this work? Now it's, okay,
yeah,
if I am using it in the classroom, how can I make sure that my kids are using it well?
yeah. I totally agree. I think that I'm seeing more and more people that have had a dabble now, have had a play, have created a worksheet, have created a lesson plan or whatever it might be, created a text and what have you. There are still some people who haven't touched it more or less at all. And in relation to the data or the whether the content is true or not, or how can we verify whether the content is true or not? I had a couple of people yesterday saying, so asking me, well, how do we know what this is, that what it's producing is accurate, is true? We were comparing ChatGPT and Perplexity. So I was saying Perplexity was better for facts, ChatGPT was better for fictional text, let's say, because of the fact that ChatGPT, particularly around topics like cultural topics, probably would hallucinate more than, let's say, Perplexity. But I said, this is not new. This is digital literacy. This is what we've been saying for years, that you've got to verify everything that you read on the internet, because probably some of it will just not be true. And that's even more important now with LLMs. So I think it was probably just a little bit of anxiety, maybe, about how do we verify any sort of content, which is definitely something which is becoming more of the issue, I think, nowadays with social media, with deep fakes and all the rest of it. But I think if we're just talking about education, I think that because of the ability to share so easily in social media groups, it means that those people who are interested in this topic are moving forward, and then that's then bringing up other questions that they would then want to ask. And then those people who haven't really played with it at all for whatever reason, they're still in that sort of beginning phase when it's almost like you've got to persuade them or show them practically how it can be used. I mean, maybe we could move on to that now. That sort of topic. What do you do with people that are very negative about the use of AI? What are some of your strategies,
Well,
Naomi?
I think regardless of whatever your opinion is about generative AI, whether you are, all in or completely against it, it's here. And it's very much present in our students' lives, especially our students in middle, high school, and obviously at the college and university level. So I think it's important to have conversations with your students and establish acceptable use terms
Mm,
within your department, within your classroom community, whatever direction you want to go in, but just to be able to talk to your kids about it because we can't ignore that it exists. And part of, right, educating our students is ensuring that as they continue on in their educational career, whatever it may be, they're prepared for these digital literacies, as you're saying.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I was reading to a report about how employers are more likely to hire someone who has skills with using artificial intelligence versus someone who just does not. So, from that standpoint, although there's definite challenges and there's a lot that I've been also educating myself about more and more, just seeing, can we trust, right, what we're seeing? What's the environmental impact? What are the stereotypes that are being perpetuated? There's a lot of misuses as well that just keep coming up because unfortunately, just like the internet, like it's the wild west, right?
yeah,
And there's things that are being created that you're like, oh my gosh, why would someone create that? Or why would someone do that?
yeah,
um, and it makes you kind of question, right, like who we are as, as
yeah.
humans,
I
right,
agree.
and as a society. But the important thing is to just, if we're preparing our students for the future, this is most certainly a part of their future.
Yeah, and we're talking about making sure that the content that we're preparing as teachers are going to be appropriate for this for the school children that we're teaching. So we have that filter. We're the gatekeepers, as it were, in relation to the content that we are providing. We are sharing with the students. When the students are using AI themselves, as long as they're 13 and above, permission and what have you, then that becomes more challenging. But I think the idea of having a class agreement or user policy is a great idea. But also, it's got to be top down from the head as well, from the
Right.
school as well. That's really really important.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of hesitation,
Yeah,
fear. And of course, because it's new and it's unknown, and when we don't understand it, we don't necessarily know how, what the best next steps are. So in some schools, though, they have formed like AI literacy committees and
okay,
really thinking about like thoughtful, actionable steps as well as professional development for the staff, and to just make sure that as a school district, right, where this is, one potential avenue, because in a school there can be so many different initiatives and things and district goals, and there's always a lot that that becomes the focal point. So this is another one of those areas that we have to provide resources and training and make sure that folks at least understand it. And then,
yeah,
of course, they can say, you know what, I'm going to try it or I'm not.
yeah,
That's fine. I'm glad to see that no schools are forcing. I haven't heard anyone say like you have to use generative AI, right? Like that's going in a direction where nobody wants to be forced to do anything.
no, no.
Um,
I mean,
but I'm
this,
curious. I'm curious. I'm more curious to see what's going to happen to our classrooms and assessments and just like philosophically as an education community, what do we believe in with our lessons?
yeah,
Yeah. And like, because I think this is forcing a shift that a lot of folks are saying, okay, what now?
yeah,
So if we can't trust that that essay is theirs or isn't theirs, we don't want to play the AI police, right? So what do we value
yeah.
in those skills that they're demonstrating? Like
Well,
how do
yeah,
we see the learning happen
yeah.
really?
Well,
So we're
those
not, yeah, we're not overly relying. Sorry, I keep going.
those are
I
the
keep
soft
going.
skills, aren't they? Those are the skills which make us human, and therefore knowing the students that the AI can play this um, supplementary role and can be a great, potentially a tutor with some caveats, but it's not good at those sorts of social emotional learning issues, the soft skills. I think that's. I mean, this is reminding me of the is it ML Chat podcast that you appeared on.
Yes.
You were sort of responding to different points about that. Do you want to just if it's okay, talk through us a little bit about that, because it was I'm not just saying this. I really enjoyed that conversation. It
Thank
was
you, Joe.
really, really good. It was about 40 minutes, I think, or something. So I was
Right.
flying back on the flight from Dublin, and I had it downloaded. I had Overcast, which is my favorite iOS app, which didn't work for a long time, but they've updated it, completely rewritten it, and it's now working like a dream. It's really good. So Overcast for iOS, very nice. Or Pocket Cast works on iOS and for Android. But yeah, do you want to talk us a little bit? We do have 2 people watching us apparently. So if you have any questions, there were people that are watching, feel free. But I'm actually really enjoying this chat as well. So yeah, do you want to talk us?
Well, I was going to say, we're here to take questions, right? So
Yeah.
if anyone has an AI related question, we'd love to answer that question and support you and whatever you're wondering about. So the ML chat that I had done, I was on that ML podcast. So it's a company called Flashlight Learning, and
Right.
they support multilingual learners, and they have blogs and they have a podcast. They have a lot of different resources available for teachers of language and specific to multilingual learners. So I was able to chat with them about just how the accessibility, right, of these tools for both teacher and student could be such a game changer in so many different ways. And it was interesting to chat with them really about like the chat bots and that one-on-one personalized learning for those multilingual learners. So knowing, like, especially too, I primarily deal with newcomers at the high school level. So we have students that are coming with zero English who are 15, 16 years old. And where do we start, right? We have this robust curriculum that they need to experience and hopefully do well in. And then what sort of supports are we putting in to ensure that they can meet, whatever the course requirements are with success? So thinking about now this chatbot that can serve not only as a language tutor, but also as a content tutor in that student's language when they have zero English, that was a really interesting, I guess, nugget in that conversation that I was able to have with the folks at Flashlight. And we did talk a little bit about assessments as well, and thinking about the process as opposed to the final product. And again, that's a very big shift for a lot of people who are used to multiple choice, right? This is how they got their answers, or this is what they believe the answers to be. And then here's that grade, right? I think it also makes us rethink grading and how, what is an A, what is a B? Here we have that grading scale in the United States. In the UK, is it the same?
So we used to have ABC, etc. Now we've gone, well, certainly for the GCSE, which is the exam they take at the age of 16, we've gone from letters to numbers. So the top level is a 9. So it's a 9 would be the equivalent of the old A star. So that's the absolute top, which the reason they introduced more grade levels was because too many people were getting the top grade. So they wanted to make sure that, or there was a significant number that were getting the top grade. Therefore, they wanted to make it harder or have more levels so that you could then differentiate between those people who really were A's or A stars or what have you. And so the equivalent of a C grade, which was the old pass, would be interestingly between a 4 and a 5. They don't actually have like it's one or the other. It's between a 4 and a 5 would be the equivalent of the old C grade. But I would imagine probably teachers, parents, everyone would actually prefer to have letters or have the old system in a way. But yeah, if it's not broken, do you need to fix it, as it were, type thing. But anyway, so but there we are. And then also in the UK as well, we've got this new GCSE happening in a couple of years' time, and this is the first year that people are going to be teaching towards that new GCSE, and there's been quite a lot of change around that. So some of the sessions I've been doing is trying to see how we can use AI in order to harness the fact that you have got these, these different elements with the new GCSE that we've not seen before. For example, we've got exam specific vocab lists, which is just really so. In other words, for foundation, which would be sort of like the more sort of like basic level, you've got 1,200 words, which the students are expected to learn during their time at school, learning a language. So that would be, for most people, would be from the age of 11 to the age of 16. That's if they carry on with it after the first 3 years. Because in Key Stage 4, which is when they are 14 to 16, unfortunately, lots of them choose to opt out and not to carry on with the language. But that's what they would do at foundation level. And then at higher level, they get 1,700 words, which
Wow.
they need to learn and really, so what lots of teachers are asking for is how can we use AI as a way of practicing those particular words. So, and what's made it even more fun is that the different examples, the two big examples, AQA and EdXL, and they have chosen different words. They're not the same words. They're different. They're different words, same topics ish, but different words. And so, I've been showing, for example, how you can get ChatGPT to generate text, but then you can put it into a tool which I'm not sure how many people know about in the UK, called the Multilink Profiler, which essentially allows you to work out how many of those words in the text that ChatGPT has generated has been taken from either the AQA or the EdXL vocabulary list. And so recently, I did an experiment with ChatGPT, and it got 73% of the words that ChatGPT had generated were in, I think it was the AQA, on the AQA vocab list. And then what I did was I put that was in this multi-link profiler. And then what I did was I took the words from the spec, from the vocab list to do with that particular topic, and I asked ChatGPT to rewrite the text using these particular words.
Right.
And then lo and behold, it was 99% on the
Nice.
vocab list, which was, which is gold basically, which is really useful for the context that we find
Sure.
ourselves in here. But would you have any advice on asking the AI any tools or any tips or tricks in order to try to get as many particular words into a text? I mean, one reason I asked that as well, because you did, and again, I'm not just saying this, you did a fantastic tutorial for Diffit, didn't you, recently? And one of their new features is
Which
vocabulary.
they have another new feature after. So
Oh, really? Okay.
I was on diffit.me today, and they have now a vocabulary tab. So you
Okay.
can add up to 10 vocabulary words, and then same thing, create a reading based on those 10 vocabulary words.
Right. So is that the same as the vocabulary lists option?
So they have right. So the vocab list, and then they have any video, right, or article URL. You can start completely fresh or new.
Yeah.
And then you can also just copy paste a text like we had done
Yeah.
from, let's say, ChatGPT to create the resources.
Okay.
So that was an interesting way to see, like, the platform, thankfully, it just keeps evolving and getting better. And I know that they're working with teachers to make more resources and to make it a more robust user experience if you're on their platform. So that's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
That
No, it always
yeah,
goes down well. So I
yeah,
think yesterday I had created a list of like 10 vocab items to do with food, I think it was. But when I put it into the vocabulary list section, I mean, that was literally the first time I'd ever done it. I hadn't even practiced beforehand. I just said, well, let's try it out. Let's just go with it.
right.
But what it did was it made a text of about 3 paragraphs, which had the words in it, but it was far too complicated. So I
Yeah.
just wondered if maybe I was getting it wrong, or is that
No,
how?
I think if we take a step back and we use an LLM and tell the LLM repeat and recycle, like I've done this with Gemini, and Gemini will actually bold the words if I tell it repeat and recycle the following vocabulary words at least 3 times or at least 4
That's
times.
good.
And then that way it'll what Gemini does really well, it'll bold those words, and then hopefully, like, it's aiming, right, to use it at least 3 to 4 times because that's what I'm prompting it to do. And it'll show me, okay, I use this word twice or I use this word 3 times based on whatever the text is that it created. Or like you were saying, rewrite this using or focusing on these vocabulary words at least 3 times, at least 4 times.
That's
Just
really, I'm
the
gonna have to
repeat
check
and the
that out.
recycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
the repeat and recycle,
Yeah.
repeat and reuse, as
Yeah.
many times as possible, just to see the language in context and to have multiple opportunities to have it in the text for the students.
Yeah, that's really good. I really like the way with Diffit, and I know you're a fan of this as well, the way in which it creates sentences with the words in context. That's very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, with the definitions, and then
Yeah,
it has,
definition,
the example sentences. It's
yeah,
well done. And then I also like that you can show the source, so you can see like where are you getting this information from. So that's another
yeah,
benefit to the platform.
yeah. It's a
And
great
by the
tool.
way, we don't work for any of these
No, we
companies,
don't.
but
Absolutely
we're
not. No,
fans, right?
just fans. Yeah, we're
We're
just, yeah,
fans. We like what the technology does to help teachers, especially language teachers. So
absolutely. And I'm also very excited about the fact we've had our first question from Delphine, which is, could you add the name of this multi-link profile in the description? So I've
yeah.
now done that, Delphine. So can you let me know if you can see it? It's just literally www.multiling, and then profile is profiler.net. So multiling profiler.net, from the University of York in the UK. So you should be able to find it. I presume you can see it in the chat. Let me know if you can, Delphine. We've got 3 people watching right now. This is so
Yay.
exciting.
Hello.
So I know you have to run out the door in 4 minutes. So what can we talk about in the next 4 minutes about AI and language? Should we go into a bit more detail, maybe about our 2-part webinar
Yeah,
series to
sure.
remind people? Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, so it's coming back next
In
week
popular
on,
demand.
yeah, on Monday. So Monday it'll be 12 o'clock Eastern time, right? But I think 5 o'clock in the
5 o'clock UK
afternoon,
time. Yeah,
right, UK time. And we'll be showcasing a variety of AI tools that are specific to assisting students with their language growth and language proficiency in the arenas of listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So we're going to try our very best, right, to only highlight the tools that we've found to be the most useful for language teachers and hopefully with the most versatility. So using this tool, you can also, you can do this, but then perhaps you can do this, this, and this using this tool, and just how we can hopefully make it so it's easy for our students to feel successful or continue to feel successful, but with some assistance from artificial intelligence in doing so.
that's fantastic. And even if you've attended the first round, which we did in May of this year, there will be some tweaks. It won't be exactly the same. The content will be there'll be repetition of most of the content, or certainly maybe the same tools, but there will be some tweaks because, of course, as we've just been talking about, these different tools have been adding new features, and from May until September, that's huge in AI terms, isn't it?
Right. Yeah,
The
it's amazing what like a week does in
Yeah,
this world.
yeah,
And like Gemini now, for example, you can create images from Gemini. I'm waiting for the improvement where you can design a slideshow, right? And then export it right into a Google slide.
that'd be amazing.
I'm hoping that's coming. If anyone from Google is watching,
After
please
3
make that
people watching that
happen.
now, maybe we have someone from Google. But I think the image generation is only available in the US, I think, at the moment. I don't think you can do
Oh,
that in the UK. I may be wrong, but I think that
sorry.
there are other, as we talked about in other sessions, there are other alternatives.
Of course. Yeah.
Ideogram has had a new update, so their writing now in images is much better. It's the best on the market, basically.
Yeah.
So and you can do other things with ideogram. So if you're a fan of images with correct spelling, because ChatGPT just misspells things all the time,
Yeah, it looks horrible.
ideogram.ai. And then the other date of the webinar series is the 23rd of September. So it's the
Right.
9th, the 23rd. You have lots of time in between to play with the tools that we've shown in the first session.
And you
And
can come to both or just one, right, Joe? Like, you
that's
have
right.
the
Yeah,
option
yeah,
to
yeah.
sign up for
Exactly. Yeah.
if you're
If you
just
go
available
for
on the
both, you
ninth.
get a slight discount, but you
Right.
can go for one or the other if you want to. And if you go for the first one and then you decide you want to go for the second one, if you just direct message one of us, I'm sure we can make it so it's worth your while, economically speaking, e.g., give you the same price as it would be, because this is what happens. We're just, we're nice people and all that. With 26 seconds to go, any final thoughts, Naomi, before you have to rush out the door?
No, I mean, thank you for I always enjoy speaking with you as
Oh,
someone who,
me
right,
too. Me
We
too.
get very geeky and very excited about similar things. So Delphine is actually asking for the workshop link. So of course we can share that out. It's on. I know Joe has everything set up on Eventbrite, but we can
Yeah.
certainly
So
add that
it's on
into the.
Eventbrite. It's public. So if you do a search on Eventbrite, but Delphine, you're in the Facebook group anyway. So I've got it pinned to the top of the Facebook group.
I
So
think
just
you created an event too recently
I
as
did.
well in the
Yeah.
Facebook group
That's right.
for
Yeah.
this.
So
Yeah.
if you get stuck, Delphine, just get in touch with one of us. But it's on Eventbrite. If you just search on Eventbrite, but do you want to remind everyone of the name of it? I know we're going slightly over. Is that all
That's
right?
okay. That's
AI
okay.
tools for
AI
student.
tools for student language skills
There
is
we
the
are.
name of our 2 workshop series.
Yeah.
So,
Lovely. So I think
hopefully
that's
we'll see you.
a perfect time to wrap up on that bombshell. So I don't want you to be late.
No,
And
no, it's all
I'm going
good,
to
Joe.
relax and watch a bit of TV. I've been working like an absolute, whatever the word is, Trojan, and I'm actually going to have an evening off now, and then I'll do
Good,
some prep tomorrow.
good.
But
It's
there we
important to take time for you. It's important too to just step away from the screen and do,
are. I agree.
something for you.
I agree. Well, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you ever so
Likewise.
much for the hordes of people that have joined us this evening. At least four.
Well,
Oh, well,
maybe people will watch later,
well,
right? They'll
four,
watch
won't you? You
later.
can watch the replay, and I think we've had a useful conversation
Yeah.
for sure. And I'm sure, yeah, we'll do more of these in the future. So thank you ever so much for those people who were lucky enough to attend live. And for those people watching the recording, where were you? No, for those people who were watching the recording, I really hope that you found the content useful. Share your thoughts in the comments
Yeah.
in the Facebook group.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
keep the conversation going, right? Just because
conversation going.
we sign off here, we're thankfully very attuned to Facebook comments and conversations on social media. So please do share out and type in your thoughts. Love to hear
Fantastic.
from you.
Lovely. Okay, I'm going to end the stream right now on that bombshell, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the near future, either in the Facebook group, somewhere on social media. That would be fantastic. So do take care, everyone. Thanks again, Naomi, for your time, and
Thank you.
everyone at the next one. Bye for now.
Yay.
Bye bye.
Bye.